With players burnt out on the current metagame, many are looking forward to the next format, where players are highly anticipating that water will be the new favorite attribute on Konami's wheel of power creep. Not only are we expected to be receiving an upgraded version of the old Water Atlantean structure deck, but many other players also believe that several water archetypes will be receiving more support as the year goes on. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the top 10 cards you should be picking up in March to make sure you are ahead of this meta change. And now the first card on today's list is kind of synchronized with the video we did 10 months ago, and that is Area, the Water Charmer Gentle. As we saw the fire support go from a slow burn to a complete inferno, Hita the Fire Charmer has been a #1 staple in these meta decks, especially since all of the opponents are also using the fire decks themselves. So it should be a surprise to no one that once Konami rotates to a water format, much like Hita was in this fire format, that Area will be a meta staple in the water format. And that is why she is #1 on today's top 10 list. Now, the second card on today's list is only fitting because it is two parts of the same monster, and that is none other than Light and Darkness Dragon. Now, as players are realizing that Light and Darkness Dragon is a walking 4 Omni Negates, players are realizing that teching this in their Runic deck or even their Horus deck will actually be able to put that deck over the top and even contend against decks like Snake Eye. Because with an Omni Negate that is negating 4 effects per turn, Light and Darkness Dragon can easily shut down even the best decks in the metagame. And that is why, if you don't have your copies of Light and Darkness Dragon already, we are seeing their prices spike. And honestly, I hope we see a reprint, but I definitely think players should be equipped with their pairs of Light and Darkness Dragon before the metagame shifts. Now, the third card on today's list was the heir to our last market watch, and that is Neptune the Atlantean Prince. And now, as we know, Konami has been hinting that they're going to be revamping their previous Atlantean structure deck. And now, for the players that lived through the Mermail metagame, they know that once Konami releases the floodgates on this Mermail archetype, that it will be meta warping. And much like Light and Darkness Dragon, we're actually seeing Neptune already see a price increase, but that is actually nothing in comparison to what we will see once we get Atlantean or Mermail support being released from Konami. And with the Atlantean Prince's abilities to send waters from the deck to the grave, searching to the hand, as well as being able to special summon from the grave when it's sent, these are all reasons why Neptune is definitely #3 on today's list, especially for the players that are looking forward to that support going to the Atlanteans in the future. Now, for the players still cooking in the kitchen and are tired of getting their hands burnt, we have a card for you, and that is none other than Battle Fader. Now, I know this might be kind of a weird tech call, especially for the crazy fire format we're in, but honestly, there's nothing crazy about it. So, a lot of boards are actually ending on OTKs. A lot of fire decks definitely dedicate a majority, if not all of their extra deck into going into this Promethean Princess, Phoenix, Zealantis, FTK, OTK that they actually have available to them. And then this combo is honestly just super consistent, so we see it time and time again, especially in the YCSs. And one thing the chat noted, it'd be really nice if some of these players had the Battle Fader. Now, not only is this going to keep you from losing the match right then and there, but Battle Fader, being a level 1, will be able to go into quite the extra deck, whether that's the relinquished Anima or being able to be utilized for other link materials. Battle Fader is not that far-fetched of an idea in this current fire meta game. And honestly, unless you're playing against pure Snake Eye that is able to put out the Burl Savage Dragon or the Baron, most of the Fire King Snake Eye decks are just going for game. So Battle Fader might be that spicy tech that puts your deck over the edge to allow you to win that next mirror match. And now, continuing into the future metagames, we are seeing that water really does favor things like Synchro, even going into tons of Exceeds, and then we actually see the new insane Dragon Archetype Tenpais being released over in the OCG and following soon to the TCG, and that deck is insane. So whether you're trying to stop the future fish, maybe the future Atlanteans, or the Tenpai deck, this next card is for you. And that is a fan favorite, or not so much, of Dimensional Barrier. So Dimensional Barrier, kind of self-explanatory. We all know what it does, but it has not been useful in this link format. But as we know, going into other formats, especially Synchro Dragons, Dimensional Barrier might be that card you need to make sure that you have in your side deck ready going into the next format. Now, this next one is a little crazy, and I gotta channel my inner nerd. All right, I hope you're ready. Because number 6 on today's list is Dragon Capture Jar. That's right, you heard me. Dragon Capture Jar. And that is because once the Tenpais are released to the TCG, they are definitely going to be meta warping, essentially being unaffected by activated effects in the main phase, and then once they go into their battle phase, you're not going to be able to activate any card effects at all, essentially allowing them free access into their OTK. So players are looking to Dragon Capture Jar to suppress the Supreme Dragons. Now we do have options like the Grave of the Super Ancient Organism as well as Summon Limit, but with Summon Limit potentially on the chopping block, as well as many players already playing level 6 or higher monsters in their main deck, Dragon Capture Jar will be what many of the current metagame builds look to when playing against that Tenpai Dragon deck. And even with them playing cards such as Heatwave, shutting you out of an entire turn of summons, cards like Dragon Capture Jar are even more powerful, keeping you out of that OTK range, as well as giving you potential to fight their dragons on the following turn. Now, if you thought that one was spicy, this next one's going to blow your socks off, okay? And the next secret tech card that's going to be crazy unreal. That was close. Never can be too careful. And now, number 7 is probably the most anticipated water of them all, and that is Tidal Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls. And now, as players know, Tidal is the last elemental dragon to be unbanned to the TCG, and once the new format starts, many players are anticipating that this card will be going to 1. And now, if you are not in possession of Tidal and want to be using this in Dragon or Water decks in the future, I definitely recommend picking up your copy sooner rather than later. And that is because Tidal is actually one of the most powerful of the E-Dragons, being able to send itself and a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to be able to send any monster from the deck to the graveyard. And as we know, this is going to be a starter for many combos to come. So players out there, definitely be picking up the Tidal Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls before the next format hits. And now, with many players seeing the success of Summon Limit, which was actually mentioned in our last top 10 cards to be picking up, number 8 is a very similar card that has gained a lot of attention lately, and that is none other than Deck Lockdown. Now, during the Pearly format, Deck Lockdown became very popular, being able to stop the deck from adding and special summoning from the deck. And now, with Snake Eye as well as Fire Kings constantly going into their deck to special summon to add to the hand, and with many players believing Summon Limit is going to be on the chopping block this next ban list, whether getting banned altogether or more likely going to 1, many players are looking for that next floodgate, such as Deck Lockdown. So make sure to get your copies before you get locked out of them in the marketplace. Now, number 9, again coinciding with the water format, is Ice Barrier. And Ice Barrier is just overall an extremely good trap card, being able to add consistency to any water deck that uses level 5 or higher, being able to be banished from the graveyard, send any level 5 or higher water from the deck to the graveyard, which then allows you to add any water from your graveyard to your hand. So Ice Barrier actually seeing a little bit of popularity in the marketplace for the Quarter Century Secret, and that should honestly be a surprise to no one, because once water does get more support, Ice Barrier could potentially be a staple in most of the meta decks. And now the last card on today's list before we go to the notable mentions is Borreland Dragon. Now, Borreland Dragon has been seeing a little bit of tech, especially since a majority of the metagame is going in for OTK and not leaving a bunch of Omni Negates on the board, such as Pure Snake Eye. So decks that can actually utilize or even steal opponents' links and then link climb into their own Borreland are actually seeing a lot of success in the current metagame. And now, since Borreland cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and they can't be targeted by monster effects, it is actually not only becoming an OTK machine, but a wall in itself. So Borreland Dragon definitely is expected to see an increase in playability as these formats proceed, especially these OTK formats. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And now, before we go to the notable mentions, if you're getting anything from this video or do keep finding your way back to the channel, do drop that subscribe button, all of the support is appreciated, and we have actually been trying to get some live streams going. We did a live stream of the Ultimate Duelist series, and we want to do a few more live streams. So if the viewers out there are actually interested in that, do comment that down below, even with just the simple term stream. So guys, let's get to the notable mentions. Now, the first few notable mentions are kind of going hand in hand with the up-and-coming water support, and the first one is a personal favorite, and that is Ocean Dragon Lord Kaioshin. With Kaioshin kind of being the master of the legendary ocean, we've actually been seeing many players picking up their copies sooner rather than later, kind of anticipating some support to the Yumi archetype overall, and with Kaioshin being almost a makeshift Gozen match, it would be no surprise if we actually see a few rogue builds of this kind of take form in the new meta game. And as we said before, water is kind of more the synchro as well as the exceed attribute. So cards such as Ice Jade, Jameer Igarine, or even cards like number 4 Stealth Kragan are actually huge options to be looking forward to, especially once more water support comes out. And then to wrap up the notable mentions, we have a few trap cards to be on the lookout for, and the first one is the Spiritual Water Art of Io, with a very strong ability being able to tribute one of the water monsters to look at the opponent's hand and then send one card from their hand to the graveyard. Not only are you plucking a resource, but you are actually seeing just what all is available to them on their turn, so I would definitely be on the lookout for that card in the future metagame. Now, to combat the OTK format that we're in and expect to be seeing with the Tenpai Dragons, we have cards such as Threatening Roar, where it might not seem incredible on paper, but once you're given that extra turn and you're able to actually be able to retaliate a little bit against these fire decks or the Tenpai Dragons, we're going to be seeing cards like Threatening Roar take their place a little bit more in the meta game, allowing players a little bit more breathing room. And now the last card on today's honorable mentions is one we've actually been screaming from the rooftops, and that is Stygian Dirge. We're seeing synchros as well as exceeds being playable in the future metagame, so cards such as Stygian Dirge will be a definite thorn in the side of those future meta decks, and even hinders up and coming decks such as goblins. And guys, that is the top 10 cards to be picking up for March. And if you got anything from the video, or if you think there are some cards some players should be on the lookout for as well, do comment them down below. And again, if you got anything from the video or keep finding your way back to the channel, smash that subscribe button. We're going to have more videos flashing up above. And if you want to see me do a live stream, do comment that down below as well. And speaking of more content, we're going to have more videos flashing up above. But as always, guys, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.